Hi everyone and welcome to our emergency vlog. I saw that a lot of you have been getting very panicked, and that's quite normal because the deadline is tomorrow. So there's only one way ahead. Unfortunately, we can't turn back time. But let's try to take this opportunity and clarify a couple of things that are really going to make you more confident in what it is that you're doing. I don't have a lot of questions that I've received since the moment when I posted the message on Facebook and until now. But before we go into the questions, I just want to clarify a couple of things that I hope are going to make your life easier. So remember at the very beginning of the entire moot court process, when we gave you the possibility to choose between two cases, we emphasized, and I do remember doing this multiple times, and the most important time was in the mini lecture or the presentation of the cases that only very few of you attended, unfortunately. We emphasized the fact that when it comes to case one, you don't have any pre-knowledge on it. However, the benefit is that you get exposed to an issue which is current and which you have seen Europe deal with in the past year. So we tried to emphasize at the very beginning that you are not going to have any knowledge to work with, although this course does go in parallel with international and European law. I think that there's quite little information from there that you can actually use for this. And we tried to say, okay, you're going to have to deal with courts that perhaps you don't have a lot of knowledge on, even in general, not to mention the very specific ways in which you need to use whatever you know about it in this case. So with this in mind, I will really acknowledge that case one has been very difficult. And it's difficult to deal with it even if you're a specialist in the field. And of course it's difficult to deal with it if you don't know anything about human rights law. However, the reason why I'm saying this is because I want to bring not only those of you who have chosen case one, but also those of you who chose case two. I want to bring you back to the purpose of this course. We're choosing a moot court to make you do one thing, which is the same thing that we started out with, and that's research. So we're not here to judge you specifically on the accuracy and the excellence of the legal arguments that you're doing from a substantive, that you're making from a substantive perspective, but we're here to look at your process. And I think this says a lot, since we're going to be happy if you manage to find literature, if you really manage to put together if you give us insight in the fact that you really tried to research. If you've done that, great, that's fantastic. That's everything that we would have ever wished for. So I feel, because I'm hearing a lot of things on the corridors, I see a lot of you really getting very desperate. So I know that maybe to a certain extent you're just getting panicked because you feel you're dealing with something that you haven't dealt with before. But I just want you to keep in mind that this is it's not something that is going to affect you in the overall grade. Yeah. So the fact that you're not able to write a PhD on human rights law because you didn't understand it well enough within the time frame that you had, it's fine. The one thing that we want you to do is just do research. And with research, we mean finding your sources and trying to work with them. If you've put together a structure of arguments that makes sense because in the light of what you have researched, that's fine. So let's just breathe for a second, because this is not the end of the world. This is supposed to be a fun experience that allows you to make a case, okay? So with this in mind, when it comes to case one, we said that issues 1 and 3 are very theoretical. So if you make arguments that deal with your case, that's fantastic, that's great. But again, what's the goal of these issues? The goal is to make this case comparative in nature, because we wanted to focus on comparative law as well with this moot court. So the reason why we came up with questions 1 and 3, which I agree with you, they're not designed for such a moot court. They're not designed to put together arguments, or they don't facilitate, let's put it like this, they don't facilitate you coming up with arguments for your party, but they are there to help you guide yourselves in the research process. So you have a question 1, which is really just deals with one topic which does not have any anchor in the case, and that is statelessness. Yeah, because normally your case deals with a situation in which you don't have any stateless issues. And then question 3 deals with the interaction between two courts, two regional courts, the European Court of Human Rights and the Court of Justice of the European Union. Sometimes their jurisdiction is going to overlap, and the question is, who needs to deal with what exactly? Whatever form of an answer you're able to formulate for this question, we are going to be happy with, okay? As long as it just makes sense. As long as it fulfills the basic requirements of being logical, and as long as you show us that you've done some research. Okay, so that's it. I'm going to publish on Ilium. I'm going to publish the criteria that we're using to score your written submissions and the criteria that we're using for your oral pleadings, so that you know exactly what you're getting yourselves into and you know what you are going to be evaluated on. Okay, now when it comes to the second case, because this one also had some very specific issues, this is a case that deals with contract law. If those of you who have discovered tort law answers wanted to go into tort law, this is a very slippery slope, because case 2, unlike case 1, was something that you were supposed to have pre-knowledge on, and that pre-knowledge was contract law, basic contract law. We never did tort law so far. You're going to do tort law with my colleague Daniel on in year 2, but so far tort law is out of boundary. If you have been working hard to make arguments on tort law until this day, which is 20:38 on the Friday evening before the deadline, stick to that, because it's too late. But this case was supposed to be about contract, and there's a very clear structure that we indicated. The main question is one of validity, but then questions 2 and 3 deal with an assumption that the contract is valid. If we have this assumption, then we need to ask ourselves, how can we make sure that we get this compensation? And keep in mind that I answered the entire matter of compensation in the earlier video. If you want to ask for this type of compensation, then what is going to be your contractual ground? This is the only thing that you need to ask yourself, okay? These were the things that I wanted to clarify for the 2 cases, and now I'm going to go into the actual questions themselves. But not before I mention that I'm just going to make an announcement on Ilium, and I'm not going to open the submission box until everybody sees this video, so that you don't say, oh my god, I wasn't privy to this information, and then panic even further. Please, everyone, just Google this breathing exercise, which is like 7-4-8 or 5-4-7, something like that. And it's like, you count to 5 and you inspire, you count to 7 and you hold it in, and then you go and you count to 8 and you expire. Okay, so do that and just calm down. All right, now let's see, where was I? So we have here the first question that was submitted on the 17th. This was a question that I did not get to answer because it was submitted a little bit too late. Then the question says, are the dates in paragraph 19 correct, and what is the relevance with this paragraph in relation to the rest? If I'm not mistaken, paragraph 19 deals with the entire problem of the residence permit, because the case says that there is a residence permit already. So what's the problem with that? The problem is with the relationship with the residence permit and the work permit, because the entire problem, also in the Zambrano case, if you read it carefully, was that there, even if, let's say that you have a de facto right to stay in Belgium, or Mr. Zambrano had this right, the question was he entitled to work, and was he entitled to do something against the situation in which his employer had actually not wanted to continue employing him. So then that's the entire problem that we need to look into. So this is the first question. The second question: hi, thanks in advance for answering all of our questions. Great, Finally, someone who appreciates. My peer coach told me to focus on Zambrano, but there are also other applicable cases that allude to the interaction of the ECJ and ECtH, well, the European Court of Human Rights. Are we allowed to mention them too? I feel like I should not stray from Zambrano, but some of these cases appear to be quite relevant for understanding the relationship between the two courts. Thanks. Well, thank you. Thank you for this highly relevant question, because since this is a matter of research, and this is what we said from the very beginning, our main goal is for you to just work with this judgment and to understand it. If you found other case law and you're able to read that and say, hey, I actually get it, let me use it in order to enhance my arguments, I'll be having tears of joy in those two eyes, okay? So yes, go right ahead. Hey, can we use Oscola for referencing, or we have to stick to the Maastricht Journal? Thank you. Someone who doesn't check Facebook. That's quite rare nowadays, I find. Yes, you can use Oscola. Again, let me use exactly the same wording that I have been using before when we spoke about this issue. Who am I to stand between you and using Oscola? I do believe that Benedict actually used a little heart emoticon today when speaking about Oscola. Now that's dedication. I would not want to stand between someone and their love for a specific referencing style. So please go right ahead. Then, case 1, we found the European Convention on Nationality, which appears to be an important document. However, we don't know how to use it as Belgium hasn't ratified it. How can we incorporate it in our argumentation still? Well, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that we're talking about case 1, issue 1. Because this is a very highly theoretical issue, I'm not even going to go into whether Belgium has or hasn't signed/ratified this convention, but I'm going to say that you can always make very beautiful theoretical arguments, or you can always say, well, look, this is what the European Convention on Nationality says. This would have been the case had the convention applied. So you can really be very creative and make as many comparisons as you want under questions 1 and 3 of case 1. Should we try to find arguments external to the issues given to try and win the case, or solely focus on answering the issues and presenting that? I'm not going to repeat myself. I answered that, I think, in the prior video. So just make sure that you only tackle the issues that we are talking about, because otherwise it's going to be way too complex, and otherwise we don't have this nice little mirror image situation between one party that presents a set of arguments and the party that needs to pretty much answer to them, or let's say present the answer that they have prepared. Then, do we know if the grandparents of the Terminus Nationality Act are Terminus? All right, that doesn't really sound quite fine, but I'm gonna draw a conclusion that you're asking whether the parents of Mr. Human are actually Terminus nationals, as it is one of the requirements to acquire Terminus nationality. Let's go on and assume that. Yeah. So in your pleadings or in your argumentation, you can simply say, assuming that the parents of Mr. Human were Terminus nationals, this is how we interpret the Terminus Nationality Act. Boom. Next. The third question, we cannot make any argument of it. Can we skip it in the pleadings and make more arguments? That doesn't really sound right, but if you're saying in other words that you can't find anything to write about the third question, that's a problem, because it means that you haven't searched enough. And I mean, even in the light of one of the earlier questions that I just read, I think that that's quite a narrow situation, because many of you have found really beautiful literature so far to deal with the third question. So that's an indication for us that you can do it, and you can do it really well. It's just a matter of taking your time, going through the databases and making sure that you're searching for the right thing. And that's, my friends and dear students, what research is actually about. Okay, now it is very difficult to find any case law regarding the second case when using Dutch law. Would it be possible not to use any at all and base arguments on articles alone? Well, so you mean, let me see if I understand this the right way. So you're saying that you want to cite yourself as an authority for the interpretation of certain articles in Dutch law. Well, unless you have submitted, or unless the person who has submitted this particular question is called Ewout Hondius, or who is a very famous professor, of Dutch private law, or someone equivalent to his fame and reputation, then I would say that the answer to this would be no. Because unfortunately, as much as I do believe in your first year analysis of legal provisions, it's not going to be enough. And again, going back to the goal of this task, it doesn't fulfill it. Where's the research? If you can't find Dutch law, if you can't find Dutch case law, then at least find Dutch journal articles or anything that you can count for as research. Okay, hello. Is the whole memorandum, including the general part, supposed to be 12 pages, or only the part with the legal pleadings? Thank you in advance. Well, you're very welcome in advance. So I treated this question also in the earlier vlog, and I said that I have been giving some different information. So in the case, in the course book, you see that it says 9 pages, because then we calculated 3 pages per person. And then in person and in other conversations, I did make a reference to 12 pages. So that is indeed a little bit misleading, which I completely understand, and I apologize for having misled you in any way. The question here is, how much are you supposed to write per issue / per student? And in the prior video, I said, do a range of 3 to 4 pages. So when you treat an issue, so this was the ideal, this is how we envisaged that things would happen. You would have 3 issues, and you would divide the 3 issues according to the 3 team members that you had. And then each of them got 1 issue, and each of them had to write about that issue. And calculating that per team member, we wanted you to write somewhere between 3 to 4 pages per team member. So to answer the question, we're talking about a maximum of 12 pages of the substantive part alone. Okay. If the person who answers issue 1 in case 1 summarizes facts of a case I will also use in issue 3, can I refer to the summary in issue 1? By all means. So you can make a very sleek transition and ask your peer coaches if they have ideas on that, because they will definitely have experience on it. But yes, so in a nutshell, yes. I can't seem to find any case law for the respondent side. Case number 2. I checked every database in the library, every single Google link. Is there even case law? And if yes, how can I find it? I mean, when you say I can't find case law, that's like saying, I don't know, it's so late in the day that I can't even think about the normally silly metaphors that I come up with. But what I wanted to say is, when you say I can't find case law on what? I can't find case law on the donation of human organs. I mean, I mentioned this myself, that there might actually not be any case around the world that deals with someone wanting their kidney back. So are you going to find a case that is identical to this? Chances are 99.999% that you won't. But the question is, what other cases can you search for? What requirements are you challenging when it comes to your analysis of the case? What requirements of donations are you challenging? And or what requirements of donations are you holding to be fulfilled? And then take it from there. So if you were telling me with this question that you can't find case law on donations, I don't buy that. So I'm going to have my own cases ready for the day of the pleadings, and just to cross-check a lot of the research that you have done in the written submissions. But I really cannot possibly believe this. Nope. And I'm gonna come up with the reason why after I do my research. The maximum of the The maximum of the memorandum should be 12 pages, maximum of 9 pages for legal arguments, etc., etc. So then you say that leaves us with a maximum of 18 pages. Is that all right? So we said 18 pages in total, I guess, that you're referring to here. Look into the course book. Look at what we want from every single part of the memorandum. So you have this very descriptive part where we want you to simply summarize your arguments so that we can also follow them very concisely. And this is also an exercise for you to understand, to put in a tiny paragraph what your entire argument is about. This is the art of being concise, the art of actually making a summary of something really extensive, picking and choosing what should be in that small phrase. But going back to the length, so we said we said between 9 pages for the legal arguments and 12 pages. Yeah, this was the thing that I referred to earlier, 3 to 4 pages per person. So then that would be just the legal pleadings, and then you have the remainder of the remaining parts. Yeah, so we have half for the summary, half for request for findings, the table of contents, and then we also had the abbreviations, etc. So just adding those up, yeah, I guess if you can say 18 pages or something, but it also depends on what you're going to do for your bibliography, because that's going to be where you're going to score points for this course. Okay. This is what I wanted to share with you so far. I really hope that this is useful, because it, again, going back to what we wanted to achieve with this course, we just wanted you to have an exciting, and in exciting I also include stressful at times, experience with research, dealing with things that you need to be very concise for, dealing with how to do your legal writing, dealing with where exactly to find your sources. We just wanted to create this experience in a more dynamic way than just writing a paper and submitting it, and then that's the end of the story. So to the extent that any of the traumatic experiences you must be going through right now are gonna help you retain information as to what it means to research and how you should research and what is the best way to do research, I would say that your efforts are going to be incredibly useful in the future. This is what I wanted to share with you. If you have any other questions, I'm going to try to be online and available so that you don't panic, and that you just submit your work and just calm down. But if in case you don't need any more guidance, then I just wish you good luck. And I wish you how can I put this? I wish you as little Red Bull as possible. And just I'm going to open the submission box on Ilium for the written submissions tomorrow morning to give all of you enough time to look at this video. Again, may the force be with you. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that everything goes right, and don't panic. We are already asking you to do such a tremendous effort. We're setting the bar so high that we just want you to get used to working on a very high level, which means that that's gonna fulfill any kind of other standard that you will be faced with during your studies, and not only. Good luck, and see you in the pleadings.